Welcome to Real Estate Pro Tips and Strategies. The theme is how to buy a home or sell a home in a changing real estate market. Hi, my name is Pete Sabine, and I'm here with my team partner, Leslie Whitney. We are real estate professionals with Compass and the 5-star real estate team here in the San Francisco Bay Area. We want to share with you our real estate expertise to give you a competitive edge and provide insight with useful information so you can make an informed decision for your next home purchase. Leslie and I break down the most important aspects of real estate. Future podcasts will reveal how to navigate as a home buyer or seller. Let's begin our podcast.
Welcome to part 2 as we continue our conversation with Joe Stokely, talking about the advantages of professional property management.
Being a landlord requires effort and dedication. Tenant landlord laws are complex and constantly changing. If you live far away from your rental property or have other personal commitments, hiring a property management company can be a good option. A professional property manager can relieve you of the burden and hassle of managing your income investment properties. This ensures timely payment of rent, proper maintenance of the home, and fewer problems during the tenancy period.
Today we have a guest. With us is Joe Stokely. Joe is the broker-owner of Stokely Properties in San Francisco Bay Area, city of Pleasant Hill. We've talked a little bit about showing the homes, and then obviously one of the big services you provide is finding a suitable tenant for your clients. How do you go about doing that? What is the criteria for screening applicants and selecting the best tenant for the property?
So what we have to do is we have to practice fair housing laws, okay, and we have to treat everybody the same, which is really cool. Because I don't have to think that very hard about I got one set of criteria for this person and different. It's like, hey, guess what? Everybody's the same. There's
only a few criteria, really, right? I mean, it just narrows it down to a few.
Right. So the owner of the property, they could say, hey, it's important to me that they have an 800 credit score. So you can do little twists and turns and things like that. But we're consulting with our owners and say, okay, if you really want to rent this, you got to be a little flexible. And some people might not want, if they have a house, they might not want a pet like a dog. I'm like, you know what? If you don't allow a dog, you're blocking out half of the potential people that can rent this house because, probably a mom and dad and some kids are going to live here and they're going to want a dog. All right. But we have a very strict and thorough screening process for pets. All right. And the whole 9 yards on that. So
it's almost like the pet has to qualify separately of the
They
tenant.
do.
Yeah.
They do.
Really?
They do. Yeah. We don't charge more money for the rent for that. Some people do pet rent, but so we, coach our owners like, okay, this is, really kind of, if you really are serious, if you really want us to help you, this is how we do things. But basically, to answer your question, the simple way is the first applicant that has the minimum standards, all the information they're the ones that you rent to.
Okay.
Right? So you don't get all the applications and line them up and go, which one do I like best?
Oh, yeah?
You can't do that. Yeah. So it's like the first one that comes in, and if they don't have the complete application or whatever, I'm not going to wait. Right. The next one comes in, so if they don't have the minimum standards, then they're not the applicant we're going to take. Because I forget what the fee is, but it's like $50 or something, an application fee. And we don't run every application unless, it has the right information. That gets expensive for people. So once we get the applications that have all the minimum standards and we run their credit and they got good credit, and then we're calling their references. Most important people are their past landlords. So we're just not calling your current landlord and you're saying they're wonderful, they're great, because you may hate them and say anything to get rid of them. But you're saying they're good, nice people, pay their rent on time. Then I'm calling the landlord prior to you, maybe 2-3 years they've been with you. Then I'm calling Pete. They rent it 2 or 3 years sooner. So if I got everybody saying these people are great, they're tell them I said hi, they're really nice people, paid their rent on time, took good care of the property. And they got the income there, they got some stability. They're not job hopping every 6 months, good credit, all those type of things. Yeah, they're the people.
Right.
What else do you want? So good history.
Okay. So Okay, I mean this is a big topic as far as what's allowed and what isn't allowed, and I don't know if we have to get into it.
That's a different.
It's a big topic, but I think the benefit to a property management is that you guys know what the rules are and what the laws are and what they can.
Yeah, oh, it's scary. There's a lot of people, mom and pop, not property management companies, but mom and pops that they're breaking rules and laws all the time. For one reason, they're changing all the time. They might be breaking laws or rules unintentionally.
Right. It's just that.
But they haven't followed up on them in 25 years.
Especially in California.
Yeah. So, again, like I was saying, like just not collecting rents, but keeping people out of trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to think. I got some funny stories about that. But, people telling me, okay, this is what kind of tenant I went in there, and I'll let them talk, blah, blah. I'm going like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I go, I can't like, I can't do that, I don't want kids. I don't want kids, I
was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, that's okay. And I was like, no, that's discrimination. I go, you're not in a senior center or whatever it's called, a 55 and older. It's not, your house isn't there. So that's discrimination. I said, just funny stories. I can write a book. Maybe I will,
Okay, well, one little question about that. Can you limit the number of occupants?
Yeah. Okay. So the way that works, people, and I empathize with them. Like, oh, what if you're going to have all these people living there? So there's no law in California that says how many people you can or cannot have live in a property. Mm-hmm. There's no law saying only 5 people or 20 people or one person, but there's like a general standard by basically like if it's a 2-bedroom apartment, let's say. So the rule there would be you have a maximum of 5 people living there, 2 per bedroom and 1 on the couch. Okay. I wouldn't want to live there. Okay. Because it's too crowded for me. 5 people all live in a 2-bedroom apartment like that. Yeah. But that's basically the general guideline. So if some family was coming in and said, well, there's 9 of us. Yeah. And we want to live in a 2-bedroom, you'd say no. You can say no, and that's just too small. It's like it's going to be just wear and tear. Where's everybody going to park? It's not built for that. Yeah. So, but again, there's no law telling you that. So it's kind of just a guideline for each bedroom, 2 in the bedroom and 1 on the couch.
Okay, interesting.
Does that help you?
Yes. Okay. I was just curious about that. What is the difference between a month-to-month rental agreement and a lease agreement?
So a lease is a lease. A lease could be as many. That's just the terms which change. So a lease is just the agreement, like the contract, and so there is no standard lease. But we generally do a 1-year lease. Okay, you can do month-to-month. All right. But I think it's harder to attract good people because at any one time, during normal times here in California, if you're on just a month to month, anytime the landlord can come along and say, hey, I'm giving you a 30-day notice to move out if you're on a month to month. So you might be there for 4 months and then being asked to move. We charge our owners for our services, and I don't think they want to be charged every few months, people moving in and out. So we do a 1-year lease. Okay. And, but the benefit to month is if the owner, whatever, wants to sell the property or move back into it, they don't have to wait 9 months or a year. They can say, hey, I'm giving you a 30-day notice. There's all kinds of rules and stuff. Yeah. But anyway, that it's just terms. So a lease is the contract, and month to month is just that. It goes month to month or a 1-year lease. But
nothing is being renewed each month. I know some people get that misunderstood. It rolls over each month.
The way we do it is, so we do a 1-year lease, and after that 1 year is up, it can revert to month. Okay, right. You don't have to sign another 1-year lease, and then it automatically goes month to month. All the terms of the lease are still there, but you don't have a contract that you're living there for the next year or 2 or 3 years. Right. So the benefit to that is the renter, the resident, can say, hey, we're buying a house or we're moving out of state. They're not locked into another year there. They can give 30-day notice and move. Right. So there's benefits and negatives to both sides.
Okay. Will you ever do a lease for longer than 1 year?
Sure. We've done a few of those. Okay. Depending. Yeah, I don't like doing that. I mean, I don't think that's in the owner's best interest, because if an owner says, hey, give them a 3-year lease, I go, okay, that's fine, but you're locked in. That's a contract. I go, if something changes in your life in the next 2 years and you want that house back, they don't have to move. Right. That's why I like year to year.
Even if they wanted to sell the house, because of the lease, the tenants are included in the deal.
Yeah. They don't have to. Yeah. They don't have to move because they want to sell it. If they have a long-term lease like that. But yeah, so we do that, but it's rare. Most people most people. It's funny. Most people, they want to have the security, but they don't want to make the long-term commitment necessarily. So it goes both ways.
Okay.
What about breaking a lease, as an example? What's involved with the tenant wanting to leave early? Like, life happens.
Right.
We have to move.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've been here for 3 months. We got a 1-year lease, but we got a job transfer.
Right.
What then?
Yeah. You can have a job transfer, or there's a divorce, or, who doesn't matter what the thing is, but like, hey, we signed this 1-year lease. Okay. So they're on the hook. Legally, it's California law that, hey, things happen. And they move out, and they're on the hook to continue to pay the rent until we find a new tenant, all right, for that. And then they also are required to pay the releasing fees. So it shouldn't be a detriment to the owner. The owner's not breaking the agreement. It's the resident that's causing the issues here.
Yeah.
So they're responsible for to continue to pay the rent until a new lease is signed, and they pay the releasing fee. So there's no interruption of income coming to the owner, all right? Now, on our side, our responsibility is we can't drag our feet and go, we're not ready to put it up for rent for a few months because I'm going on vacation or something like that. Well, wait a minute, I'm paying rent, and there's nobody being advertised to. So, we got to get in there, clean it up in a reasonable time, get it back on the market to advertise it to market. But, yeah, so in the case of people breaking their lease, that's happens, but they're responsible to continue to pay the rent and to pay the releasing fees.
Okay. What is subsidized housing, and what are the pros and cons of renting to tenants under a subsidized housing program?
Well, subsidized housing can mean a lot of different things. Basically, somebody's helping to pay your rent. So a lot of people have heard of, Section 8, the Housing Authority, but there's also a lot of really good charitable programs out there, like the Veterans or Catholic Charities or whatever, just organizations out there to help people make ends meet. And we work with all of them, so, we screen the residents that are going to live there the same way we would anybody else. Doesn't matter if they're being subsidized. If somebody goes through a divorce and they get, child support payments or whatever, that's subsidized housing. So anytime anybody's helping you pay a bill, you're being subsidized. So, some people think that if they work with the Housing Authority with Section 8, that's a benefit to them because they're getting like a check for sure. They don't have to worry about, that's a matter of opinion. I don't know if, I wouldn't say, yeah, that's 100%. You're absolutely right. So, there's pros and cons to that. When you do subsidized housing with an organization like the Housing Authority, Section 8, you're dealing with a lot more rules. You're dealing with their rules. And sometimes things don't always move as fast as you'd like them to do. There's got its pros and cons.
Yeah, so it's like the third wheel. I mean, the Housing Authority has their standards about the housing itself.
Yep.
You have to meet those guidelines, their minimum standards, right?
Right.
And then the tenant has to qualify for the program. And then somewhere in between that, the property manager and the property owner fits into that, right?
Yeah, we're managing the property the same way we would. We don't treat it any worse or better. It's just that you're dealing with this other entity. So like the housing authority, and maybe another layer set of rules that you have to go with. Not horrible, but it's more complicated than just not dealing with them.
Right. Like, so an analogy would be in real estate, you can go to a bank and get a loan to buy a house, or you can get a loan that's backed by FHA or some other governmental agency that insures the loan, but they have an overlay to the qualifying standards, not only for the borrower, but for the property they're loaning against.
Exactly.
So the property owner's going, hey, wait, I've got another buyer over here with a normal loan. Let's just go that way. It's easier for me. So they end up taking the deal, the offer from that buyer instead of the one with a complicated government requirement.
Yeah, you got a government. So every year they do an inspection of the property, and no matter what, because I've owned properties where we have people that are on subsidized housing, and it could be the same inspector every year come there and never said anything about that receptacle, okay? And everything passes with flying colors. But this year, that receptacle needs to be replaced, or what? They got to do something to justify their job. So every house gets flagged for something. If there's a screen missing in a window, You know, and what they do is they pull back your payment until it gets remedied. You know, so.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's an incentive for you to fix it.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway, but you know, some people that's great, that's cool. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, and I don't go around telling everybody, hey, that's the way to go. That's cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So a big part of your service obviously is finding tenants, and how do you use the most effective resource to market a property to a large pool of prospective tenants?
Well, it's amazing, but signs still work. Okay.
For drive-bys?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, people might live in a neighborhood and they would never know if that place is for rent because they're not looking for something to rent for themselves. But a sign pops up and then they can tell their friend or whoever, like, hey, you know, but the internet, you know, we have our website, the Stokely Properties website, and then we, through Rently, again, another tool Rently has is you post all your properties through that. And that pushes that marketing out to like 25 different real estate related websites like Zillow or HotPads and Trulia and God knows how many other sites you never even heard of. So yeah, it's out there. And I would say the majority of everybody, when they start their search, they go to the internet. I'm looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Pleasant Hill.
Just Google.
Exactly.
Google it.
So yeah, that works out pretty well.
Okay.
So what about the presentation online? Do you use like professional photos or anything like that so that when people are surfing the net, it looks really good when they see it? Or
yeah, of course. I think the pictures look good. Some people pay to have for professional photographers, all right, and that cost, if we did that, would be passed on to somebody, you know. So we're not doing that. Our agents are, I think, really good with using their iPhones and moving the trash cans out of the way when they take a picture of the front of the house. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. You know, don't just take a flat picture of the front of the house, get an angle, do it on a nice blue sky day, you know. So, you know, we know little tricks to really take them and present them as well as possible. So yeah, absolutely. Lots of pictures. I mean, people usually first see the property on their computer screen. So they either fall in love with it right away or they don't like it. So I'm telling our people, hey, you know, take these nice pictures, you know, all these little tricks that you do to make them more presentable and explain everything about the property. You know, we have maps where things are located. So, you know, I think you look at that and either you like it or you don't like it, you know, and then, but we want people to go to the property and see it, because seeing on the computer is one thing and seeing in real life is another. So, but yeah, it's important, the presentation, and we want to make it look as nice as possible.
Yeah.
What do you offer tips and evaluate the condition of a home to recommend improvements?
Sure.
That will increase its appeal and rental value?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Saying like, you got to paint these walls, or you need new carpeting, or, you know, you got to.
That's a good service to provide.
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of people, they even ask, like, do you do that before I say I can do that? You know, we have to do that because.
But not everybody does, I imagine.
No. Well, but if some people don't, then we tell them they need to, because that's, again, like the product we're offering and who's it going to attract, what kind of people would it attract. So, but we do that.
That's great. That's a great service.
So collecting timely rent every month is really important to ensure the consistent cash flow. So how do you assure the property owner that you'll collect the rent on time? How does that work?
How we assure them?
Yes.
Yeah. So we don't guarantee anything.
Good.
You know, so that's a really tough question, because you know, we're trusting and we're working with the past history of the people that we screened to apply into the home, that they have a good track record, you know. And so that's our insurance. Like, hey, we wouldn't put somebody in this property that has a horrible track record of paying their bills on time. Right. So these people are super strong. They have good credit history, you know, good landlord history. So that's pretty much our best assurance. Yeah. You know, you know, because, and that we're presenting, you know, we're offering a nice property, you know, it's just not habitable, but it's a nice property. If things break, we get them fixed. You know, it's a partnership, I think, between the owner of the property and the people that are living there. You know, like if you take care of the property and pay the rent on time, then of course, if things break, I'm going to be responsible to take care of them. So, you know, there's a mutual, I think, good relationship with everybody, and that past track record of people, that's the assurance. Right. I mean, anything could go wrong. People, over the years, you know, we've all seen good, solid people go through bad times and things fall apart, and nobody could ever predict that in the future.
So the lease agreement says the rent is due on this date, and then it's late on this date, and then there's this time period typically where there's late fees because it's late. So you've got all those mechanisms built into the lease agreement with the tenant, and the owner sees that in the lease, and they just agree to that plan if the rent comes in late, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And you know, we're really fortunate. We don't have a problem with people paying their rent late. They pay it. Most people pay it online, and it's just sucked out of their bank account. You know, so it's pretty automatic.
Right.
We don't have an issue with people paying rent late, chasing people down for money. I couldn't do this if that was what the job was.
Yeah. And so how does that work? The rent money, how does it end up in the property owner's account?
Does it end up in my pocket?
The skim.
Does it go through your pocket first?
Hey, so everything I said earlier, everything goes into Appfolio, and then it goes out of Appfolio. So we collect all the rents, so we can document it, you know, so the people can have on their reports for their taxes and everything like that. So we collected $3,000, and then that comes in our account, and we take our fee out of it, and then it goes out to the account, direct deposit to our owners.
And it's a definite timeline, like one day or 12
No,
hours?
it doesn't have. That's a good question. It doesn't all happen in a day. People have a hard time believing that it still takes time for money to clear the bank, even in this electronic age. So we say the rent is due on the 1st through the 3rd, and it's late on the 5th.
Yeah.
Okay. But perfect world here. So we get the rent. And anybody says, yeah, well, I need to get that rent like right away because my mortgage payment's on the 10th. I'm like, well, you know what? Look at getting the rent early, not late. You're getting it early for next month because I can't get it to you by the 10th. What are you talking about? If you get it on the 5th, we have to wait 10 banking days for that money to clear. So that usually people get it maybe on the 15th or the 20th.
Really?
Yeah. And if people have a problem with that, then I'm like, I'm sorry. Again, I'm not going to risk my license because the risk you take there is commingling.
Right.
Not that you're doing that intentionally, but if Pete pays his rent, let me get this. I have to send you your money.
All right.
Let me think. I got you guys are my clients, and you pay your rent late, and I get the money, and there's no money there, but I'm paying you your monthly income from somebody else's.
Yes, it's like a Ponzi scheme.
It's called commingling. Yeah. And it's just a big mess, and I can avoid all that if there's money in the account. So like rather than praying like, hey, this money comes in, and just send it right out as soon as it comes in. And then if I got nothing there, you know, so that's all avoided. And the person, again, I'm not there for everybody. I'm not there to solve everybody's problem. If they're like, I just have to have that money by the 10th. I got to make my mortgage payment and stuff.
And you're
like
not
that.
a bank. I mean, that's the other
No.
thing.
Well, I just tell them, I go, look at it this way. Rather than it getting there late, look at that I'm a month early.
Mm-hmm.
Look at December's rent payment is to pay January's mortgage payment.
Right.
You know.
Right.
That's the way to do it.
So that property owner probably should just gear their payment schedule so that they're ahead of it by a payment, so they're not feeling the squeeze.
Or they should contact you to sell their house because they should not be in the real estate investment business if they're living paycheck to paycheck or month to month. I mean, really, that's not our client.
Right.
The guy that's like squeaking by and every little penny. I mean, that's not our person.
So when there is a delay in collecting rent, what are the proper and legal ways to deal with that situation?
Well, nowadays it's a total mess. And if you're listening to this 10 years from now, that's a distant memory. But as of December 8th, 2020, the whole system's a mess with the legal system. Fortunately, I use the word fortunate because we are fortunate. I'm very grateful that we don't have a lot of problems that you could have out there. Maybe I'm lucky. I don't know. But we don't have a lot of people that have had the excuse of the coronavirus as a reason for not paying rent. We've had a few, but out of like 700 plus properties, very minimal amount. And those people that haven't paid, that let's say they just have a legitimate excuse, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't, or even people that are taking advantage of the system, gaming the system, you can't evict them. You know, you can't do anything. So the tools that have been around forever up until last April aren't at our disposal. But I'm really pleased to say everybody's behaving. Everybody's doing a really good job with doing what they're supposed to do. In the case of somebody's not paying the rent, there's not a lot we can do really right now.
Yeah.
We can't evict them. We can't do anything like that. Back in the old days, if somebody, let me talk about regular times, not this very short period of time.
Right.
So, if we didn't collect the rent by the 5th, they would get a 3-day notice from us. And that's basically saying you owe your rent, so pay or quit. I mean,
so is that whether it's a lease or a month-to-month? Either way, it's a 3-day notice.
Either way, if you are obligated to pay the rent and you don't pay it, it doesn't matter if you're on month-to-month or week-to-week or month or whatever it is. It's like you're supposed to pay rent. We didn't get it. So we're giving you a notice to either pay in the next 3 days or get out.
Right.
Quit. And so what happens after that is people, we don't hear from anybody. Then we're not lawyers, and I don't do evictions on a regular basis, thankfully. So you don't want to screw that up. So I think I always say it's best to get somebody that does this as a profession. So we'll hire an eviction attorney, and we have a couple that we recommend that we've worked with in the past that know the law, because you have to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. You do screw one little screw up, you start from scratch.
Notices and timelines
all that stuff. So we work with an attorney and they take over from there. And then generally it's about 6 weeks before the sheriff would be at the door. And there's usually 3 sheriffs. So you go there, worst case scenario, they're still not out. So you go there with the 3 sheriffs and the locksmith. And to get possession back of the property. What I always try to do before, I try to avoid that. You're talking to the owner, go, hey, well, it's a lot cheaper, a lot quicker. Let's offer the people money. Obviously, they're having a bad time. Who would want to do this? Who would not want to pay the rent to have all this drama? So let's go and offer them $1,000. All 20s. Looks like $1 million. Because all you want is possession back.
Right.
So if you pay $1,000, that's going to be a lot cheaper than loss of rents, any damage to the property, paying an attorney. So sometimes that works.
Yeah.
Sometimes, very, very seldom have I ever showed up to a property where the people are still there.
Okay.
And that's really sad. That means they have nowhere to go. That means I got nowhere to go. But anytime I've ever had to do an eviction, I've done a few over the last 10 years, the people are gone. They're usually out the day before. So when you show up there with the sheriffs, there's nobody there. It's empty.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the process. Most people, you scare them by saying, hey, look, man, you don't want to do this because you're going to lose. And then it's going to be a judgment. And a judgment's on your record for 10 years. And it just makes it hard for you the rest of your life to, at least for the next 10 years.
10 years?
To rent.
An eviction judgment, that's called?
No, just, an eviction judgment. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 10
that's
years.
longer than a bankruptcy.
Yeah,
wow.
They just pay your bills or just get out, whatever.
Yeah.
And it'd be real hardship for people. Like, man, it's going to be hard to buy a car.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that to people.
No.
I say, let's not do this.
Right.
Yeah.
You probably don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, who holds the tenant's security deposit?
We do.
Okay.
Stokely Properties does. We have a trust account with the bank, and we follow all the laws and guidelines on how to do that because that's a very sensitive issue.
Okay.
How to do that properly. So we hold all the security deposits. Sometimes owners want to hold them, and we say no.
Okay.
Because when it comes time, when the people move out, my opinion is that is the residents' money. We're holding their security deposit.
Right.
And the whole reason for that is like, hey, look, you return the property in the same condition or better or whatever that we delivered it to you. Okay. And in some situations, owners get like, what does the owner want to hold that money for? Why do they want to hold that money?
Well, do they get to decide on that? Like if they say, oh gosh, there's scratches on the floor.
No, I decide. I decide we hold the money. If they go, no, I want to hold it, I'm like, I can't help you.
Yeah.
Because it causes us problems.
Right.
If the people move out, the place is perfect. And I'm like, you got to give them all their security deposit back. Oh, no, I don't want to.
Right.
I went on vacation. I spent it. I don't know what happened.
Right.
But now I'm like stuck. Like, they didn't do it. They did a great job. They left it in great condition. All right. Now I got a problem with the owner.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen, again, very often, but it has happened with people's opinion. Like I think whatever
Sure.
they think, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, but that eliminates a lot of things. So we hold the security deposit.
Okay. Interesting.
So not all property management companies do that. Some people are like, I don't want to hold it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it just depends. But
Yeah.
I think when the people are exiting, it makes it a much smoother disposition when we're wrapping things up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seriously, like what does the owner need to hold the security deposit for?
Right.
They're going to spend it until they need to cough up the money to pay it back to them. It's like a bonus.
I just thought the only reason was if the owner doesn't agree to refund the whole entire security deposit because of scratches on the floor or the yard was dug up.
That's true. Well, we can still go through all that. We can have that discussion, but we're holding the security deposit. Yeah. Because now they're holding everybody hostage.
Right.
You know.
So I think we touched on this earlier. I was going to ask you what the minimum recommended lease term is, and I think you mentioned 1 year is your minimum.
Yeah. There's no standard like this is how it always is, but I think 1 year, a 12-month period of time is reasonable to go there because 2 or 3 years things happen. On the flip side, people's lives and they can't do anything if they're like, I really need to sell the house.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just easier, I think, going year to year.
Okay.
All right. Is smoking allowed in homes? I know that has changed those laws. Is that correct?
Well, we don't allow smoking of anything, not just cigarettes, but anything.
Really? Not even medical marijuana?
No,
Really?
Smoke is smoke. Yeah, just because it's
and that's allowed.
It's not allowed.
I mean, it's allowed to forbid that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
People who smoke cannabis are not protective class of people, so they're not special. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can do your cannabis without smoking it. You can ingest it other ways. So yeah, but smoking is smoking. No smoking cigarettes, no smoking weed, no smoking cigars, pipes. You know.
Didn't they pass a law in California with multifamily units that you can't smoke in them? It's like a state law for a duplex or a triplex. I think it's
apartment buildings. And it's different ordinances for different cities. I don't know if the whole state's done it, but like for instance, Pleasant Hill, Walnut Creek, they have ordinances that you can't. Okay, so if you're renting an apartment from us in one of these buildings, you can't smoke in the unit, and you can't smoke anywhere on the premises there. And
like the common areas.
Yeah, I'm not a big smoking advocate, but I'm like, hey, if somebody wants to smoke, they should be allowed to smoke. So I guess they have to go on the sidewalk or roll up their windows in their car. I don't know.
Or walk across the street to the other apartment.
Across town. I don't know what their options are there, but So with us, every property that we manage,
that's your rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it just causes damage.
Yeah.
Really bad. It's really expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the pros and cons of allowing tenants to have pets? I mean, and what about the whole emotional support animals, ES?
Yeah, so what there is a service animal, and that's not to get confused with the emotional support animal. So if you have a seeing eye dog, that's a service animal. Okay, that's licensed for that, and there's no argument with that. Emotional support animals or whatever names they came with, people try to take advantage of that. The law is kind of blurry there, but what we do is if people have one of those, they just can't like go off the internet and buy a vest and wrap it around the dog and say, they have to have like a prescription note from their doctor. So they have to. There's some rules you have to abide by, and that happens. We don't have a big problem with that with people abusing that, but it can be abused, and people do abuse it where there's no pets allowed. So then they go, I got an emotional support animal.
Yeah,
and then. But we hold their feet to the fire like, okay, all right, we believe that, but you have to prove it to us. You have to show us a doctor's prescription note.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can't charge extra security deposit for that.
Okay.
I've had people say, the owner's saying, well, I want to increase the security deposit. I go, you can't. For
any pet, actually, right?
Well, the word is what you're using there. Yeah. A pet, you can. But emotional support animal or a service animal is not a pet.
Well, I understood that a security deposit is limited. You can't charge unlimited amount of security deposit, right? It's 2 months or something.
It's 2 months or 3 months if it's furnished.
And the pet deposit has.
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's like we usually charge 20 or 25% increase with that.
Okay.
But the bottom line is you can charge a security deposit if it's a pet, but an emotional support animal is not considered a pet.
Yeah.
It's not an emotional support pet.
And who generally pays for utilities and landscaping services and such?
Well, the utilities, the people who live in the property pay
Yep.
for them. And the landscaping services, we just kind of have the owner, it's all bundled in, and it's paid by the rent, that is supplied by the, like if there's a pool or a yard, the owner of the property, hey, you're responsible for that bill. And, you pass it on to the renter to pay that. But yeah, when a person moves into the property, that's all handled. I don't want the people living there being responsible for that. And they're nice people, but they don't get around to it for 2 months. And the place looks like a mess.
Yeah, as a property owner, you want a pool service and you want landscaping services.
Yeah. You don't want the pool to be green in a week or two.
Right.
So that's all provided. But like your PG&E and your water and your trash and everything like that, if it's a house, the people living there pay, those bills are in their name.
Okay.
So is renter's insurance required?
So there's no law on that, but we advise our owners to require that. Okay. And it's really good for everybody to have renter's insurance. It avoids a lot of problems. So all the properties that we market, renter's insurance is required. And because if something happens, this is in the past years ago, whatever, the power goes out and all their food spoils in the refrigerator. The renter, the people live there, they're like, well, I want the owner to pay for all. I'm like, wait, the owner never signed up to, if the power went off, they take care of all your food or any of these other things. So we're like, be responsible, get some insurance if the place burns down.
Yeah.
Or a break-in and valuables.
Anything. Have insurance. If you wreck your car, the other guy should have insurance, but, you should have. Anyway, so if everybody has the insurance and it's cheap, it's not a lot of money, no more problems there. We were a long time ago being, mediators, back and forth. I'm like, the owner doesn't have any responsibility with this. So anyway, you got insurance, it's covered.
Yeah, I had this rental home in Phoenix years ago, and it caught on fire. It was an accident. It was almost a brand new house, and the tenant was living there, and the house was inhabitable. They had to leave, and it wasn't just the fire, but the smoke and water damage ruined everything they owned. They didn't have renter's insurance. They literally had to leave with the clothes on their back.
Yeah,
and I felt really bad for them.
Suing the property owner.
No, they didn't do that. But I mean, I had my insurance. I got the house rebuilt.
But your insurance doesn't cover their loss.
No, it doesn't.
They think it does.
Right. Yeah. But it didn't.
Yeah, that's funny because they go like, well, don't you have insurance? Yes, to cover my stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
My insurance doesn't cover your stuff.
And renter's insurance, like you said a minute ago, it's really inexpensive. It's a great deal. Plus, there's theft coverage with most renter's insurance, too.
Yeah, it's reasonable.
There's different policies and things like that. But, if you need a place to spend the night, I always think if the place burns down or if it gets burglarized, let's say it's nobody's fault. It happens. You're covered.
Yeah, it's good to have. I think we talked about this.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. So, maintenance, repairs, you have a list of contractors you work with?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I was going to ask, so do you have a regular scheduled inspection where you go to the property once a year or every 6 months to make sure things aren't getting too far out of hand?
To make sure there's not like a grow house going on there.
Something like that.
A puppy mill or something like that.
Well, what do you call those inspections?
Annual inspections.
Oh, interesting.
Annual property reviews. We don't like to use the word inspection because we're not licensed inspectors. So we're reviewing the property. Make sure there's no leaks underneath the sinks and, make sure they're taking care of the house.
That's a great service.
We know the psychology of a tenant is that a lot of tenants don't want to say anything's wrong with the property. They don't want to bother anyone. They want to lay low, just live there. They don't, they don't want to cause issues.
Yeah, they're afraid that they're like, you're going to raise the rent if I say
Yeah.
What's nice, and also if you have a house and you got the yard maintenance people there, you got eyes on the property.
Oh, yeah.
And if there's things that break every once in a while, it's good to have people just go in there and checking on it. So if there's something weird going on, we don't have to do an inspection. But the gardener goes there and they says, hey, whatever, there's tinfoil on all the windows. I better check that out, because we're not driving around every week looking at all the properties and stuff. So, but we don't have those problems. And with annual reviews of the properties, it really limits any of those type of things. I mean, the people living in the property, when they signed up for that, they know that's going to happen. They were agreeing to that.
Yeah.
So we got to check the smoke detectors to make sure they work,
Right.
the CO detector, make sure there's no leaks. So it's not spying on them. You know, you can spy on them a little bit, but you're more going there to make sure, hey, if something happens, this house is in good shape.
Well, to be fair to a lot of tenants, they're not really tuned into maintaining a house.
Right.
No.
You know?
They don't. If they never owned a house and had to do those type of things. So, but mostly, I mean, really, you go there to make sure there's no surprises that the way they're living. But we're not there like checking to see. You know, we're not there to check to see if they make their beds and stuff.
Right.
We're going there to make sure that the smoke detectors work and there's not like a something that they're not even aware of, but like underneath the kitchen sink or the bathroom sink, like leaks, or you ask them, hey, you know, is there anything you need to let me know about that needs to be fixed, blah, blah, blah. So that's because there's people that own rental properties and they haven't been in them in years,
right?
You know, and then the people move out and there's a whole host of problems that are expensive to fix that could have been minimal, but because they never knew about it, and because the people living there didn't want to alarm the owners, they go out and you have this little leak that if it was fixed, it'd be no problem. But now the whole kitchen floor is dry rotted.
Right.
So it's super important to do that, you know, just for that reason, just to make sure everything's okay.
So there's two different fee structures. One is the leasing fee and one is the property management fee. So what are the leasing fees? What do you typically charge to find a tenant to lease a property?
I think, I believe we're charging, 8%. Okay. 8% of the annual rent. So if a property rented for $3,000 a month, for a year, that's $36,000. So what we would charge for our services would be 8% of that. So it'd be a $2,880 leasing fee.
Okay.
All right. And that's a one-time fee, but we do all the same things we do for anybody else. We're just not managing it. You know, we're just like, we did everything, and now we placed a resident there for you.
So first, screening the tenant, compliance with all the laws about doing the lease right and all those things. You've got a leasing fee. And then separate of that is the ongoing periodic property maintenance. So that's a different fee structure, right?
Maintenance.
Property management.
Property management.
Oh, property management. Yeah. So leasing is at 8% because our business, again, we're a for-profit business and we want to stay in business for a long time. So the way our business grows and we stay in business is having a portfolio of properties that we manage. So doing a lease, we may never hear from that person again for years. You know, they might live there for a long time before the owner needs our services again. So we charge a higher rate for that at 8%. We charge 6.9% if we're leasing and managing a property. So it's almost a discount on the leasing fee. But, you know, because we're going to have it for years.
Then there's a monthly.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. So you have some property owners that want to self-manage, but they want your professional expertise to find the property, tenant, lease, put it together. Now it's on the owner to manage it.
Yeah. After we put somebody in there, they're collecting the rents and dealing with any maintenance issues, the backed up toilets, whatever. That's what they want to do. But a lot of people don't have access to the credit bureau to pull people's credits or the right kind of, you know, applications and things like that to do, or they just don't, or advertising. How do you get qualified people? So they're willing to pay for that. And we get great people. So, you know, they're in there and they just collect the rents and just deal with surprise maintenance issues.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then there's rent control, which is a whole different topic in and of itself that could take hours to get through.
You have to have me come back on the show.
Talking about that. Another time. We'll do that. Yes. Right. So, well, that's basically our questions for you today.
Oh, thank you, officer. The interrogation.
We'll take the deposition. Turn that light off, will you?
Sign here. Yeah, well, I hope this was helpful to you. I mean, and really I'll say, these were really good questions. These are really good questions. I think if I had a potential client that was thinking about hiring us, and if they asked these questions, I would think they would go away going, okay, good. I really know a lot what's going on. Yeah.
So tell our listeners how they can find you.
Oh, okay, great. So my phone number is the best way to reach me. You can call me on my cell phone, which is area code 925-878 1603, or you can email me at, I'll tell you and then I'll spell it. So it's Joe Stokely at StokelyProperties.net. That's my name. JoeStokley at StokelyProperties.net. Joe Stokely at StokelyProperties.net. Or
your website.
We have a website.
You have a really great website that really lays everything out, including your fees and
everything's
all that.
there.
So
everything's all
very comprehensive.
Yeah, StokelyProperties.net.
Okay.
StokelyProperties.net is the website, and everything's there. Tells us what we do, what we charge, what properties we have available. If you want to apply to rent a property, I mean, it's all there. So it's very, very easy to use.
Good. Great. Well, nice talking with you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Real Estate Pro Tips and Strategies. This is Leslie Whitney with Pete Sabine. We are the 5-Star Real Estate team, and we know how to set the stage for your success. Call us to win with us, 925-297-5335. Discover more real estate pro tips. Find our podcast at 5starrealestateteam.podbean.com. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this podcast. We hope you enjoy our real estate pro tips and strategies, and we encourage you to share our podcast with anyone you know who is looking to buy or sell a home. Be sure to like and subscribe, and if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to ring the bell next to the subscribe button so you won't miss a single episode. Thank you to our producer, Sam Loveman with Painless Podcasts, for making this podcast happen. I'm Leslie Whitney with Pete Sabine, and we are the 5-Star Real Estate team.
Join us for our next episode of Real Estate Pro Tips and Strategies. Call or text 925-297-5335 to reach us with your questions and referrals, or send an email to info@5starrealestatepro.com.